Guna meredam laju inflasi, Bank Sentral AS atau Federal Reserve memutuskan kembali menaikkan suku bunga acuan sebesar 25 basis poin sambil mengindikasikan siap tangguhkan kenaikan lebih lanjut.
In determining the extent to which additional policy firming may be appropriate to return inflation to 2% over time, the committee will take into account the cumulative tightening of monetary policy, the lags with which monetary policy affects economic activity and inflation, and economic and financial developments.
Ini adalah kenaikan suku bunga ke-10 sejak Maret 2022 dan tak banyak mengejutkan analis.
So to me, we need to keep our eye on the ball, and that is inflation. And, a lot of people are concerned about whether we're going to have a deep recession or light recession. What we have to look at is that the Federal Reserve, yes, they want to avoid a recession if they can, but that's secondary. Inflation is like cancer to an economy. Recession is like the flu. So if you're given a choice of which one do you want, if you had to have one, you don't want either, but if you had a choice, you'd rather the flu than cancer. So the Federal Reserve will induce a recession if that's what it takes to get rid of inflation.
Sebagian analis juga mempertanyakan apakah target inflasi The Fed sebesar 2% masih realistis.
I do think that we're going to have a very difficult time getting back to the structural inflation levels that we've witnessed over the last, 20 to 30 years. I do think the new normal is going to be higher than 2% inflation. I think that if anything, I think it was an anomaly the last couple decades, just how low inflation has been. And I think part of that has been the long-term effects of, a country the size of China entering the WTO in 2001, sort of entering the global financial system and all the benign disinflation that came along with it. I do think that the low-hanging fruit has been picked there. And if anything, we're witnessing a world where the first and second largest economies in the world are increasingly at odds with one another and less likely to trade with one another. Of course, I'm speaking of the US and China. And so I think that's been a massive tailwind for disinflation over the last couple of decades that is likely to be reversing a little bit going forward. So I do think that the Fed is going to have a hard time getting it back down to 2%, particularly in the absence of some really, really deep recession.
Pelaku pasar dan pelaku usaha selanjutnya menanti dua indikator utama seputar laju inflasi, yaitu indeks harga konsumen yang datanya bakal diterbitkan pada 10 Mei, lalu indeks harga produsen, harga di tingkat grosir yang dijadwalkan terbit pada 11 Mei. Dari Washington DC, saya Nova Purwadi dan tim VOA.